Hey guys, Lorena Magana here with NewFilmmakers LA. Today, I'm talking to director Tjardus Greidanus about his new film, A New York Heartbeat. Let's take a look at a clip from the film.
I start rifling through the filing cabinet, and wham, there it is, a Colt 38 Special War issue. I'll go. So all we gotta do is let ourselves in.
This is syndicate money. We'd be pretty stupid to touch anything.
Ask Mike.
What's gone?
$10,000.
So A New York Heartbeat is about a 17-year-old gang leader named Spider who blunders into a gangster nest and steals a suitcase full of cash from this notorious gangster. And he makes his getaway, but he is beaten up and he's taken in by a sheltered young woman named Tamara. And you know, these two have to kind of learn to live together in a way because he can't get away because of his injuries. And then he discovers that her uncle is actually a gangster who swore off the world and who is this exiled crime lord. So it becomes this triangle.
How did you come up with the concept behind A New York Heartbeat?
You know, it's a living, breathing thing. You know, it comes from many different things. But I think the seed of it was my dad. He spent the last 20 years of his life completely isolated, kind of living as a hermit all the way up north in Canada. And you know, and I would go and visit him, and I would realize he hadn't talked to anybody for like 2 weeks. You know, he lived on this farm about 12 hours north of Calgary, in the middle of nowhere. It'd be like 40 below zero. And I was just fascinated by the way his mind kind of turned inward. I mean, he was fine with it. He wasn't depressed about anything like that. He had just kind of sworn off the world, and he was happy by himself with his cattle. You know, he had cattle, and living on this farm. And then you know, that was kind of the beginning of it. And then, so then I wanted to make that more interesting. So I decided to make it about this gangster who had sworn off the world, who was living by himself. You know, in the biggest city in the world, New York, you know, on the top floor. And then, you know, I mean, it kind of evolved from there. I realized that it was not going to be interesting to have this guy by himself living there. That's not a story. So I invented, you know, his niece, the girl, and then I felt I had to bring the outside world into that, you know, in the form of Spider, you know, who really, in the end, became the leader. He became the lead of the film, and then collide him with these two characters. So it becomes about this triangle. So, like I said, it's a living, breathing thing, and it's, you know, it starts with one thing, and that kind of shrinks down, and something else kind of grows. It takes a long time.
Why did you choose this piece to be your debut as a director?
I had done a couple of student films, you know, a long time ago. I've been working in the business for a long time. You know, I started in production, working as a location manager and an assistant director. So I learned that whole end of it, you know, for about 10 years working in Vancouver. And then, but I really learned about storytelling in a way through the editing. You know, I was an editor for 10 years and mainly documentaries. And in documentaries, I mean, there is no script. You're shaping your story from the material that you get. You know, you get your interviews, and then you shape, you find your story in that. You're in fact kind of writing, but with interviews, and then shaping your story in that. And I think I really learned my storytelling. You know, got my storytelling chops there, and that really also kind of translates perfectly into screenwriting. Because documentary editing is all about structure, in a sense. And writing a screenplay is all about structure. It's all about, to me, about when a question is asked, you know, of the audience, and when do you supply that answer, you know? So.
Tell me about the significance of the title, New York Heartbeat.
See, well, you know, I was always fascinated with New York, you know, and I'm not an American. I mean, I am an American, but it's not my first language. I lived in Holland till I was 16. I was always fascinated with American culture. Then I moved to Canada. I lived there for 12 years. So I feel like I'm kind of born of three cultures in a way. But New York, you know, I mean, from growing up, I remember it was always, you know, the place that where I would want to go. And I thought, the most amazing time really would be right after the war, you know, in New York, which was just the most exciting time in a way. But I felt like I could not being an American, I could only kind of capture a very specific time and place. So I picked, you know, a period piece, you know, set in the 50s, and I felt that that I would be able to capture that. So I mean, I think the film is about this very specific time and place, you know, and it has both the place and the time, which is the heartbeat that happens in the 50s.